Hello, my name is Philip Rulo with Rultract, and today I'm going to go over the setup of the Rultract Panniculectomy retractor system. The first thing that you're going to do is put the Rultract bed rail clamp on the rail. Now I usually put this right about where the pannis starts, so in other words where the crease is. And this is usually just below the hip or at the bottom of the rib cage, so somewhere in that area, depending on patient anatomy, surgeon preference, and I'll be there as well to have some input as to where I think maybe it should go. So you're going to go ahead and put this on the rail. You could put it over the drape, or you could put it under the drape. Either way, you're going to need the drape over it if you go over the drape, because your circulator has to tighten this knob. So we're going to go ahead and put it on the rail. When you put it on the rail, squeeze it together and then tighten the knob. Don't use the knob to bring the jaws together. Squeezing it together will give you a much better purchase on that rail. So I'll go ahead and put it on and then squeeze it together, and I hold the jaws together and then I tighten the knob. And you're going to want to tighten this as tight as you can get it. It's beneficial to have somebody very strong in the OR to tighten this knob. Once you get it on, grab the top here and move it. If it moves at all, it needs to be repositioned or it needs to be tightened more. You don't want to have any movement in this. Now what you're going to do is go to the other side of the bed and put this clamp on directly across from the other. So you'll go ahead and eyeball it and you'll be able to see if it's directly across the table. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it has to be very close. So I'm going to squeeze those jaws together and tighten this as tight as I can get it. And again, it probably will be the circulator or myself under the drape tightening that. So let's get it as tight as we can. Once you get it on, make sure you grab this and move it. If it moves, it needs to be tightened. I'll give you an example. All right, sometimes people have it on and they'll grab it and it moves like this. Well, that is not tight enough. So tighten it more. Okay, both of these are very tight and they do not move. Next, we're going to put the top post on. Top post, simply drop onto the bottom post, rotate it a little bit, make sure it's properly seated on both sides. If it isn't, it'll spin, and that's not good, so make sure they're properly seated. Next, we're going to put our coupler bar on. This coupler bar is what connects these two pieces over the table to allow this to be a very rigid system to lift a heavy pannis. And you can see here it's a little short. So what we have are tubes, call these tube tops, that go into the top of the coupler in order to reach those top posts. So you'll put these in, and it's important here to realize that when you're putting this on, if you're not careful, well, I'll show you what can happen. All right, so I'm not being careful. Oh man, right? That's a problem because we only have two of these. So if we drop one, we can't use this set. It probably makes sense to have more than two, but we only have two. So they're going to go into the coupler bar, and then someone's going to be on each side of the table holding these. So because I'm here by myself, you know, I would be over here and this kind of slides out, and then someone would be on this side and this one slides out. Just have to be very careful that you don't drop them. So and the reason they slide out is so you can adjust it to exactly where you need it to be to put it on these top posts. So left side me now is going to pull that out and it goes right on the top, and right side me would be over here and I would pull that out, okay, and then just drop it on. I made that look a lot harder than it was. If you have somebody on each side of the table, it's very easy just to slide that out and put it on. The most important thing is we don't want to drop any of this for obvious reasons. Okay, then once you get it into position, you tighten these lock knobs down in order to lock this bar into position and make it rigid. Okay, now we have these together, we're ready to add the extension pieces. You're going to want to put your extenders on with the extension going toward the top, not toward the bottom. If you go to the bottom, it's going to be too close to the pannus and you will run out of cable, which is what we're using to lift that pannus. I've seen them in cases where you can use it with the extension to the bottom where it's closer to the pannus, where the pannus is smaller. In most cases that I'm in, the pannus is pretty big. So you're going to want to go ahead and put that on to the vertical extensions, and you'll put them, I wouldn't put it all the way to the bottom, put it with maybe like one hole exposed. You'll be able to see that. Of course, you won't be behind the table, you'll be over here. It's the detents, we call them, are on all four sides, so you can easily see where this would be. Line it up with one or two detents still showing, and then turn your lock knob and make sure that you lock it into position. You're going to do the same for the other side. In order to put it on, you have to make sure that that lock knob is opened all the way. If it isn't, this is what happens. Okay, so you may not remember to open it, but as soon as you go to put it on and you realize it's not going on, you'll remember, hey, I should have opened that lock knob. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I could slide this down, and again, I'll leave one or two of these detents exposed so I have it at the right height. And if you put it all the way to the bottom and you notice that you don't have enough height, it can be adjusted obviously during the case. So it's not imperative that it's properly positioned initially, but I'm just telling you where I usually put it. Now you have a longer extension. This one goes in the center. Reason is the longest reach that we need is in the center of the pannus. So we have a long reach here. So you go ahead and put that on with the extension to the top. Make sure your lock knob's open. Set it down. Two detents exposed again. And then turn your lock knob and lock it into position. Now you're going to put your ratchets on. These are what we're going to use to go down to the pannus to grab it, to retract and elevate it. Real quick, in the event that you have a pannus that is on the patient's right side or left side, say on the inner thigh, okay, you would use what we call our rotating extender bars in order to reach those. If the pannus is positioned here and this particular side, goes straight, well, then we can't reach that pannus. So we have a rotating extender bar. We're going to put that into position with the knob either on the top if we need additional height, or we'd put it with a knob on the bottom if we don't need additional height. Go ahead and put that into position and then tighten your lock knob. As you can see here now, I can reach. If the pannus is over here, I can reach over here to get it. If it's to the left and I need to be outside of where the incision is, I can move it. And then I would put one on the other side, do the same thing, and then I could position my ratchets all the way to the right or to the left. Something else that's nice about these is if you are using them and they're just being used straight on, I've had many assistants or surgeons that are on this side and they start to hit their head and they get pretty annoyed. So you can loosen that and just slide it out of the way. So now you've cleared the field. So they are useful. Most cases for standard pannus, standard panniculectomies, we don't use them, but they will be in the kit if we need them. And I will be in the OR to say, hey, let's maybe use those rotating bars. Now we are ready to put our ratchets on. So this is a Rultract ratchet, and that's what we're going to use to elevate the pannus. Now you're going to want to open your lock knob all the way. Again, if you forget, it's not going to go on, so you'll remember, hey, I need to open that. So go ahead and do that. Now when I put that onto the extension, I put my finger in the front here, and I feel when it's just flush. And then I know that it's properly positioned, so I can use this lock knob to lock it into one of the detents or holes. There are only two. I'm sure you can't see them. There are two detents. We want to make sure we're in one of those to lock this ratchet into position. If we're not, there's a possibility it could slide off. So how I do that is I just put my finger in front, feels pretty flush, tighten that knob down, make sure your handle is to the outside because the surgeon doesn't want to have to wrap their hand around to grab that handle. So make sure the handle's to the outside. Now you'll put your one on in the center, open your lock knob. I put this on at about the center of the extension for the center extension, so in the middle of the middle. And then I go ahead and lock it into place. There are guidelines, which you can't really see well for the purpose of the video, but if you're standing right by the equipment, you can see it. Just line it up with one of the guidelines. Tighten your lock knob, make sure that it's tight and isn't going to fall off, because we don't want them to fall off. Now we're going to put the right side on, and usually when you come back from sterile processing in the tray initially, they're wound up so this cable isn't just swinging all over the place. So go ahead and put this on. Again, put your finger on there, feel that it's flush, tighten your lock knob, tighten it down. Now when these lock knobs are tight, there is a very, very small gap here. If they are not tight and they're not in a detent, that gap is significantly larger. So you want to make sure that those things are tightened, and the best way to tell is to make sure that gap is very small. I could just about fit my fingernail in there. Well, there's a little more room than that, but not much. Okay, next we're going to put our AHAB bars on. These AHAB bars have snap clips. These clips are what's used to attach the towel clips to the retractor. So you're going to put multiple towel clips in the Pannis, which you may or may not have done before, depending on what you've used to retract it. So multiple towel clips in the Pannis, and then you take the towel clips and you gather them up 3 different positions, and you put them into the snap clip here. So there are pictures and videos online as well, which will show how that's done. So what we'll do is go ahead and put this AHAB bar on. We have 3. And there's actually an extra one in the kit in case you drop this. So that's nice to have an extra one of these. However, I would like to have an extra one of these as well, but for now we don't, so we're going to be very careful when we're putting that on. So here we are with the Rultract set up and ready to lower the retractor to the Pannis. So to do that, you see I'm trying to pull it down and it won't come down. Just flip the reversing lever on each one of the ratchets and you can lower it into position. And then once you do that, clips go into the Pannis, and then you're going to retract the Pannis and elevate it, hold it up so it can be dissected. Now something to remember is once the Pannis has been dissected, it will be hanging here, literally. So what we can do is lower it down just a little bit. And then once it is completely dissected and we're able to remove the towel clips from the, no, we don't do that actually. The towel clips are going to still be in the Pannis, and the towel clips will be attached to the snap clips. So what you want to do is remove the center, and then on the sides, you can kind of lift it up and have somebody remove that snap clip on both sides. So you're now holding the Pannis. So these are actually great Pannis handles. And then you can remove it from the field. Now if it weighs 20 pounds, one person can do it. 30 pounds, maybe. 40 plus, it's going to take 2 people. So you're going to be able to remove that from the field using these as handles. They come in very useful. So that is the retractor setup. I probably made it seem more difficult than it needs to be. What we're going to do now is we're going to take it down. Obviously, once the Pannis has been dissected, you don't need this. So you're going to want to remove it from the field. And in order to do that, you're going to want to take it apart and remove it in pieces. You don't want to lift all this at once. Very heavy, very front heavy. It could fall on the patient. It could be very dangerous. Something else to point out here, you can see this seems very unstable. I'm using a demo setup, so it's not anywhere near as sturdy as it will be in the OR. Now in the OR, it will flex and it will move. It's designed to do that. It's a very rigid base, but there will be some flex to it. So we are going to now take this apart. What I like to do is I can just take these extensions off on the side, and I hold the ratchet and I just lift it off. Now you can lift these off as one piece together, or you can remove the ratchets obviously, and then take the extension off. Just remove those. Now when you're going to take this center coupler off, a couple of things to remember. First of all, it might be stuck into position because it had been under a lot of stress and tension holding the pannis up for so long. So it might stick. You might go to take it off, be like, man, this won't come apart. What's going on? So what you need to do is kind of just hit it a little bit on each side, and you will actually hear it release. Then you can lift it and remove it from the field. When you take it away, just be careful that you're holding the coupler as well as the tubes on the side. Just in case these happen to loosen, although they shouldn't, you probably tighten them down. Go ahead and lift that up and it can be removed from the field. But you want to make sure you're holding it very steady, because if you don't, one of these will fall out. Of course, at the end of the case, it doesn't matter that much. So let's just be careful when we take that apart. Now we take these tops off, they should just come right off. Now we have the clamps. Now the clamps are going to be in the way, so the surgeons are going to want them removed. However, some surgeons want them left in place because they don't want to risk contamination. If they're going to be removed, somebody, usually me, goes under the rail and loosens these knobs. Now if we tighten them very tight, it's going to take a strong person, probably somebody other than me, under the bed to loosen those knobs. So you go ahead and loosen them, and something that you will notice is even if you loosen the knob, sometimes those jaws don't release, they won't open. So you'll turn the knob, you'll be like, well, it's still stuck. All you have to do is just kind of tap the top and the jaws will pop open. And that happens again because of how much stress that this system was under. Go ahead and lift that, remove it from the field. The scrub obviously can hold the top of the post here while the circulator or myself loosens that knob. So the scrub just hand it off. So that's it. That's how you set the retractor up for the panniculectomy, and that's how you take it apart and remove it from the field. If you have any questions, please call me. I can do a video in-service. I will be there the day before the case, hopefully, to do an in-service as well with the OR, and I will also be with sterile processing to make sure this is all processed properly. So thanks for the opportunity to be there. I do look forward to it. Have a nice day.